India is now one of the world's fastest growing economy, even in the face of a global slowdown. So as you look ahead to Viksit Bharat in 2047, what do you see are the three most critical growth levers that India must prioritize over the next decade?
I think, first of all, it's important that we start adopting technology and not fighting shy from it. Yeah. With the advent of artificial intelligence, with the shift in global trade, with the newer and newer threats coming to India, coming to the world through cyber security, all of these are going to present a huge opportunity for India. We need to adopt that, we need to accept that, and we need to really leverage our talent and skill on that. Another area which, to my mind, is very important for all of India to understand is quality. I still remember as a child, if you would go to the store, you would ask the storekeeper, can I get an export quality suit or an export quality pair of shoes? I think we need to change that mindset in India, that anything and everything we do, goods, services, every action of ours should be of a high quality standard. So if we look at hospitality, for example, I was just talking to the Oberoi CEO, sky is the limit that India can leverage. Mm-hmm. We have very high hospitality standards. Of course, we need to do a lot more skilling and reskilling and training of our people. But quality always pays off in the long run. Quality is not expensive. Mm-hmm. It is always cheaper in the long run. And I think this consciousness is coming amongst consumers, amongst Indian industry. We have Mr. Subramaniam here. Everybody is vying to get an L&T construction quickly. If he can take some more clones, probably we could have a few more L&Ts in the country. So it's all about quality, and quality is respected. And third, we cannot but accept the fact that sustainability is going to be at the core of any development agenda in the long run. Maybe for a short period of time, there may be a pause, which we are seeing in recent times. But I think the world recognizes, and we as a global citizen, as a responsible global citizen, would like to be a part of the global effort towards sustainable lifestyles, towards reducing waste or recycling waste, mm-hmm. and reusing as many things as we can. And my sense is that if we focus ourselves on innovation, quality, and sustainability, it'll be a sure shot cocktail for success.
Absolutely, sir. From technology to innovation to quality and the circular economy that you touched upon, I think all are absolutely very important for us to get to the state of being a developed country. But just talking about the trade negotiations we have with developed countries across the world, what is the guiding principle that is shaping India's trade negotiations today? And especially as we aim to become a global manufacturing and services hub.
You know, quality and innovation can also be seen in our trade strategies today. And I'll explain to you why. For the first time, India today has a standard operating process, SOP, of how we are going to do trade negotiations, with whom we are going to do trade negotiations. And unless we check the boxes and we are convinced that this can be a good win-win situation, we don't enter into a trade negotiation. Also, in terms of the kind of countries with whom we are engaging, is far different from the past. I recall when I first became Commerce Minister on 1st June 2019, the first issue that I was to address was India's joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. Incidentally, and I may take a few minutes with your permission to explain to you, because I think it's important to understand where we were going wrong if we have to do it right in the future. India was never a part of RCEP negotiations in the first place. It was a group of 15 countries, the 10 ASEAN countries, China, Japan and Korea, Australia and New Zealand. They had started negotiations. India was not in that original negotiation. And look at these 15 countries. We already had an FTA with ASEAN. Not that it's a balanced or a good FTA, it's with our competitor countries. But be that as it may, we had it. We had a free trade agreement with Japan and Korea. So 12 countries, we were already having a free trade agreement. With Australia, we were on the verge of striking an agreement at the point we decided to join RCEP negotiations. And because RCEP negotiations we joined, we aborted the Australia negotiations. So country 13. Country 14 was New Zealand, with whom at that point of time, today it's pretty much different, but at that point of time, bilateral trade was only $300 million. Not a significant trade. And who was the 15th country? China. Effectively, I'm not trying to politicize it, Shashwat, but effectively the Congress was putting India and Indian manufacturing and Indian businesses, particularly our MSME sector, at the mercy of China. We were entering into a free trade agreement with China. And I can't even explain to you, when I got into the files, the kind of horrific stories that I saw in the files, what we were going to be foregoing and what we were going to be offering in that deal. And I started talking to industry. I did 200 industry engagements. Some of them may be in the room today, I don't know. Satish Pai, at least I can see for sure. Out of 200 industry engagements, only 3 told me we should join RCEP. The rest were absolutely against RCEP. There may have been a few who had no comments. And it took a lot of courage when Prime Minister Modi stood on 4th November in Bangkok that year to say that the RCEP is not acceptable to India, it does not meet the guiding principles. And I'll give you just one example. I was engaging with the Chinese minister, and he was telling me, why are you worried about China? You must join RCEP. It'll do good for both of us. I said, okay, you just give me one assurance. Believe me. I said, give me one assurance that every product you sell to India, you will allow us to check that the payment of that product was made entirely from the counterparty in India, and there was no 2 sets of payments, one going from India and one from somewhere else. Just that much assurance to make sure that the full price of the good you are supplying to India is paid for by India, so that the custom value is also correct. And I'm ready to consider doing it. He said, no, we can't do that. You cannot check where we got the payment from. I said, and we were having coffee or tea, I said, in India, the cost of raw material of this cup and saucer is more than the cost of finished product duly packed, transported to India that we get from China. How are we going to survive as a nation? And we decided not to do that deal. Today, who are the countries with whom we are dealing? All developed and advanced countries. We've entered into an FTA with Australia. We've entered into an FTA with UAE. with UK, the four-nation EFTA bloc, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. What are their per capita incomes? The four-nation EFTA bloc ranges from $100,000 to $180,000. UK is at about $50,000. Australia is at about $45,000. UAE, depends how you see it, but it's a big market, open market, opportunities galore, and we've done well after the FTA. All developed countries with large per capita incomes, where our competitive issues are much less. In fact, we complement each other's economies. And that opens up a floodgate of opportunities. And by the way, an agreement is a win-win for both parties. You've got to forego something if you want market access in the other country. But then, if on any product that are open to these markets, we are not able to compete. I mean, our per capita income is at $2,500, $3,000. If we can't compete with a product being made by these countries with a $45,000 or $50,000 per capita income, then we jolly well need not make that product unless it's of strategic importance. Then jolly well we should import it, because ultimately the nation has 1.4 billion consumers. 140 crore consumers should also have a say. How long are we going to protect in industry and cause our consumers to pay more? It can be a transitional period, it can be for some amount of time. But ultimately, if we can't compete with a $50,000 per capita economy, we better get out of that business, because all theories of competitive advantage or competitive advantage suggest that we should in an integrated, globalized world look at doing what we are best at.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, sir. Just shifting thoughts to, the startup ecosystem. And I think in India today, we have the world's third largest startup ecosystem. What are the next steps to ensure that Indian startups scale globally, especially in sectors such as deep tech, defense, AI, advanced electronics?
I made some comments about our startup ecosystem at the Startup Mahakumbh. And initially I thought it had caused a storm, because I was blasted through social media as if I was not respecting the Shashwat Goenkas of the world for whatever they were achieving, and I was criticizing wealth created by billionaires, which was not true. And then I got my office, the boy who did it is standing in this room. We got my office to study the entire attack on me. And other than Mohandas Pai, and he's a dear friend of mine, he can take a few liberties with me, and 50-50 comment on the Zepto founder. He's also a very dear friend. I love the boys doing some wonderful work. Other than that, it was only the Congress ecosystem, top to bottom, which had attacked me. And I promise you, since that day, wherever I go, on a flight, in a public program, 2 or 3 youngsters come up to me and thank me for my comments there. It was kind of a wake-up call. India needs to move over into high-tech, into innovation, encourage the deep tech startups. And for example, we've just promised a 10,000 crore startup fund of fund, tranche 2. I'm allocating the entire fund to deep tech startups. There's enough capital for other industries in the marketplace. Deep techs do have a difficulty because the horizon is very long. Success ratios may not be very good. And frankly, I have a complaint to many of the billionaires I see before me, including you, that our Indian domestic capital is not coming sufficiently to support Indian startups. So I do wish to see Indian companies, Swadeshi capital, coming in a big way to promote the startups, because there's tremendous potential. And sadly, our startups sell out a large part of their equity ownership at an abysmally low price, very low price, when they need that first seed capital or early stage funding, the sharks out there, I even probably criticized Shark Tank and got a beating for that too. The sharks out there just tend to kill these ideas or buy them out very cheap. I want to appeal to all of you, ladies and gentlemen here. Let's look at more domestic pools of capital supporting startups. If we were to do what Silicon Valley did with their innovation ecosystem, supplemented with the 1 lakh crores that we have just announced in the Research, Development and Innovation Fund, RDI Fund, I think we can do wonders in India. Our talent is second to none. Our young men and women can really do what nobody in the world can do. They do all of that in NASA. They do all of that in Silicon Valley. There are at least probably 3,000-4,000 Indians of substance who've made it big in just the Bay Area.
Absolutely.
So I think there's no reason why we in India, supported by all of you, and through pooled capital. Very often I'm told that there are family offices which do these things. Look, family offices are not going to take big risks. Family offices will not be able to really reach the people who really need that money. And they will not be able to reach the family offices. They'll never be able to get into RPG's headquarters, right? So we'll need to have pooled capital. Sorry, I hope you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
I'm using you because you're like a little kid to me. I can take you as an example. But honestly, we need to have pooled capital, domestic capital, supplementing the money that the government puts up. And by the way, India can be a great innovation hub. Innovation India can be done at 1/5, 1/6 the cost of what happens in Switzerland or America. And that 1 lakh crore coupled with private capital can lead to 15-20 lakh crores of innovation, equivalent to what would be done in Singapore, in Switzerland or Singapore or Saudi or anywhere else. So we really need to think big, and I hope I will hear some good news. Maybe Fortune India can initiate a movement to get domestic capital excited about the startup ecosystem.
So I just wanted to add that we at RPSG are now starting to invest a lot in startups in all of these areas.
Good. Very good.
But so, you spoke about quality, and that becomes very important when you look at India from a global supply chain standpoint. So what do you think is required to be done for India to become to be considered more as a trusted, high quality products and services nation?
Gradually and particularly after COVID, India is being looked upon as a trusted partner. The stability in policy, the predictability that India provides today, far better than what Europe or America provide. I think we have the talent, we have the ability to produce high quality goods, offer high quality services. What we need, I think, is just a mindset change. The basic jugaad mindset, and it's gradually reducing, but that chalta hai approach, if that can be changed, if we all start looking at high quality, for example, look at the building constructions all over the place. If you tell the masons or you tell the people who are building that building that look, this wall is not aligned, he'll say, "Saab, 2 mm hi to farak hai, kya badi baat hai?" He doesn't realize that 2 mm can be a nightmare when you're doing your interiors and when you're planning the rest of the furniture, when modular furniture comes in. I mean, as you go into deeper and deeper, you'll find that the multiplier impact of that 2 mm will be terrible. And I think we still really need to significantly change the mindset towards perfection. If collectively, maybe we are all quite old and passé, but just our youth can be inculcated this spirit of precision and quality being paramount, of being really focused on meticulous work. I'll give you a small example. When I did my chartered accountancy, I remember my senior was a very small firm, very, very small firm. He was a paraplegic, my senior, where I was doing my articles. He would not allow a 1 paisa difference in the balance sheet, either on the debit or credit side. 1 paisa. And I tell you, it was so frustrating trying to tell him that, it's just 1 paisa, we can just adjust it somewhere. Must be some damn transposition error or something somewhere along the line. But his consistent point was, no, it could be probably 1 crore of rupees on one side and 1 crore and 1 paisa on the other side, which could have caused this mistake. And if all the children in their school, in their college can be given this mindset of being highly conscious of accuracy, meticulous in their work, focus on quality, country will get into a double-digit growth very, very quickly.
And so my last question to you. So corporate in India has benefited from stable taxation, ease of doing business practices and reforms, and the major infrastructure push from the side of the government. So what role do you expect that the CEOs in the room should play to complement the government's push towards a Viksit Bharat?
Well, you are not going to complement our push. You are going to create Viksit Bharat. We will complement your push. You are the ladies and gentlemen who are going to really make India a developed and prosperous nation. Prime Minister often says that this will be a collective commitment and effort of 1.4 billion Indians. Government can only play the role of a facilitator, and government needs to stay out of your business, needs to stay out of your hair. In fact, as recently as our last cabinet meeting, or not the cabinet meeting, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, he was interacting with exporters. And one of the comments he made after that meeting was that, look at the IT sector and how successful the IT sector in India was. Because when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister in the 98-99 period, and the Y2K bug hit the world. I mean, it never hit the world, but the damn world thought sky is going to fall on their head. For no rhyme or reason, we got a huge push and a great opportunity in the IT sector. And we converted that into a great opportunity. We never looked back since then. But at that point of time, Mr. Vajpayee took the sage decision to leave the IT sector completely on its own. Not bring in too much regulation, not try to create too many obstacles to their work. And look at how it has flourished over the last 25 years. We wish to do that. And we want you to be demanding. Please ask of us what more we can do to complement your efforts, to help you work better. Whether it's decriminalizing laws, removing some obsolete laws, helping compliance has become easier, compliance burden being reduced, whatever we can do. Some things may happen fast, some things may have other dimensions which you may not immediately understand, but in government you have to have a very 360-degree view before you take action. But I can assure you, our intent is speed. Our intent is to make your life easier, to make it easier to do business in India. And our intent is to become a facilitator to all of you so that Viksit Bharat does not remain just the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or the mission of this government, but it is the collective mission of 1.4 billion Indians. If we all work together as a team, there's absolutely no power on earth that can stop India from becoming both a developed and a prosperous country on the back of inclusive and sustainable development.